Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I am talking about the pros and the cons to homeschooling. I am a homeschooler. Yes, my parents homeschooled me from K through 12 and I am so proud and excited about it because I see so many more parents getting into homeschooling. There have been so many misconceptions about homeschooling throughout the years that finally I feel like we're at this breakthrough point where people are ready to receive the truth. So if you are ready to receive the truth about the pros and the cons to homeschooling, I want you to watch this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So one of the things that this website, it's a Texas-based homeschooling website. One of the pros that they mentioned is that you have that flexibility and you have that free time. And I cannot tell you how precious this is when you're talking about having a child where you're able to sit and from A to Z decide what the school structure is going to be, what the class structure is going to be, what time are we going to start, what time are we going to break, when are we going to take summer breaks, when are we going to take different breaks. One of the things that I love about this particular portion of the pros is that, say you're teaching history or you're teaching government, like I'm right here in Texas. If I'm homeschooling, if I want to have an interactive class trip, I can just take my kids down to Austin. We can sit down there for the week and literally tour the Capitol, tour all the government buildings. We can learn so much history about Texas government right there in the heart of the Capitol, as opposed to only being able to schedule it out for like a weekend and trying to crunch everything in that little time frame right there. We're able to spend the whole week in Austin, Texas, and really take in an interactive view of government. If you want to go to Washington, D.C. or wherever, you can do those things when you have that flexibility and when you have that free time. You're not restrained to just summer break. You can go at any time that you feel like it because you have that school schedule in your hand, the school schedule that you created, the school schedule that you made. You have the ability to make it, tweak it, any kind of way that you want. You have some parents who have children with special needs, or they have children who might be sickly at the moment. So this is a wonderful time for you to be able to curate a schedule that goes around your child's needs as well as your needs as the parent. Free time and flexibility is something that I feel like go hand in hand. They listed them separately because there are some things that are different, but all in all, you cannot beat the ability to have that flexibility and that free time. So number 2 is effective learning. And one of the things that they mentioned is that when you are in a classroom with 20 or 30 children, it's really hard for that teacher to really slow the material down or pick it up as the child or children are learning, because you have so many kids in the classroom who are on different learning levels or spectrums that it can really be hard for that teacher, as I said before, to hone in on what child needs what, when they need it. It's such a tight schedule, and they have their own schedule according to their school district and the regulations that go with that. They have a set time to teach a certain subject, then they have to move on. Unfortunately, there are children who have been left behind academically because of the fact that their teacher wasn't able to really spend adequate time with them, or enough time, I'll say, like additional time, teaching them a subject that they really needed extra help on. When you're talking about homeschooling, you have the ability to slow down the subject. If you see that there is something that the child just really isn't grasping, you have the ability to put it on pause for a little minute to make sure that they're understanding it, or give them extra support, extra materials, whatever you feel like they need in that moment to really get what they need. You can do that there because you're not on a tight schedule. Again, going back to that freedom and that flexibility, you have the ability to say, okay, we're going to spend one more week on math. We're going to spend another week on it because this is something I see an area where you're kind of lacking, and I want to make sure you're really getting this information. It's no foolproofness to it. Even if you do spend time or extra time with the child, it doesn't mean that they're going to come out and be a whiz kid at everything. But I think what they're trying to say is that you're able to sit down and at least give them a couple more hours on the subject. It doesn't guarantee any more success than if the child is in school, but it's just saying that if you want to spend extra time on a subject, you don't have to, but if you want to spend extra time on a subject, you have that ability because you have that free time and you're not in a restrictive environment where you have to just move on from that subject. You can actually stay there a few more minutes if need be. The third pro is relationship building. And this is something that you often see with students and their teachers. I've seen so many kids who have had beautiful relationships with their teachers because those teachers are fun, they're cool, they pay attention to them, they give them that love and support that they need. A lot of times this goes beyond academics. A lot of times it's because the teacher and the student might have the same favorite TV show. They might like the same ice cream flavor. It's so many ways that students bond with their teachers that is so beautiful to me. And it's something that's so unique, and it's just a beautiful thing to know exists. And so as the parent, as the teacher, y'all are able to relate to each other on a new level that goes beyond the classroom. Like I said, you can find out different likes or dislikes. You can figure out what you don't think is a great TV show and what they think is a great TV show. This is a wonderful opportunity to really learn and cultivate with your child, understanding their personalities, seeing what makes them laugh and what makes them cry. As you're bonding over subjects, maybe you can use this time to say, hey, this was a struggle moment for me too. I didn't really grasp English like that as well. I struggled with grammar. This helps the child be able to say, hey, my mom is not as whack as I thought she was. She's actually really cool. She's actually really cool. Or even dad. It's so many ways to it that goes beyond the classroom. And a lot of kids that I've seen who did have beautiful relationships with their teachers, they take that into adulthood and they still talk about their teachers to this day. Just how effective that teacher was, how instrumental they were, how they would listen to them, how they would let them vent when they needed to vent. I know as a parent, sometimes that child can be like, okay, mama, I really don't want it to be you. But you will also find that in those moments, they can open up to you and talk to you because of the fact that you're spending that quality time with them. This is a wonderful moment. This is a wonderful time to really get to know your kid on a different level. Point number 4 is college readiness and success. And they mentioned that a lot of Ivy League schools have a high acceptance rate for children who are homeschooled simply because of the fact that they're in an environment that works for them. They have that free time. They have that flexibility. They have that effective learning, and they have that relationship cohesiveness that pairs so well with learning. A lot of times I feel like we look at just the textbook and we feel like the textbook is just all that's needed in the classroom, but that is so not true. You need so many more pillars to really make a learning experience what that child or children need it to be. And so when you talk about college readiness, one of the things that they mentioned is that there's a common misconception that because we are homeschooled or we're homeschooled, we don't do well in college because we're not learning in a way that prepares us to go into college. But there have been so many students who have taken college entry exams, whether it's the ACT or the SAT. When they go into college, they do well on taking tests and things like that. You have many of us who have graduated college or even gotten higher education degrees, which is the case for in my family. My sister, she's heading into getting her PhD. I have my master's degree. My other sisters have their degrees. So it's like, that's such a huge misconception just based off of us alone. Homeschooling works. It's not easy, but it does work if you put in the time and diligence. So if you're concerned about something that, you know, they might miss out on it because they're being homeschooled, so you're afraid about college and college university process, I'm telling you right now, it's possible. It can be done. Another pro that they mentioned is independence and maturity. You have the independence. The child has the independence. And a lot of times, if the child is accustomed to leaning on others in the classroom to help them with their work, or if it's something that they're not really understanding, it can kind of create a handicap with them. With homeschooling, you're really able to hone in on that child and make them be independent when it comes to their work, independent with their thinking, not necessarily relying on what someone else is saying or doing. Why do you feel this way? Why do you think this way? It kind of pulls them out of their shell and makes them be able to answer those hard questions. It makes them be able to sit there and really dedicate to understanding and learning different things. And then as the parent, you notice your child's behavior. And this is the same way if your child is in school. You know what your child will do. You know what they won't do. And so when it comes to if they like to whine or if they like to be a tattletale, you're able to look at them and be like, no, I need you to straighten that up. That's not a good characteristic to have. That's not a good personality trait. You're able to really study them, understand them, and then point them in the right direction. It's not saying that they're going to do everything that you say, but at the same time, you know that you did your part in teaching them and helping them to understand that you can't always be dependent on how someone else thinks or how someone else feels. You have to know who you are by yourself. And this is a wonderful way for parents to be able to really instill that into their children and help them learn and grow in an environment that promotes independence and maturity. The last pro is socialization. And this is a huge, if you ask someone about the pros and cons, they would probably put socialization on the cons of homeschooling. homeschooling because so many people feel that us homeschoolers have horrible personal skills or interpersonal skills because of the fact that we were homeschooled. So they feel like we don't know how to socialize, we're blocks, we're squares. And as I said, no homeschooler is the same. But what I will say is this: we have much personality, we have much socialization. It just depends on how the parent decides to curate their learning environment for their child. No classroom is the same. So you might see some homeschoolers who you feel like do actually lack socialization skills. Does that mean that that's the same for everybody across the board? No. It just means that their parents homeschool them a certain way, but another parent might do it a different way. So it doesn't mean that that's a one-size-fits-all rule for everyone. And socialization can be had when you're with your child, or if you take them out to do extracurricular activities, which is what my parents did with us. We weren't always at home. We went other places. We did other things. We were around other children. I think that's an important thing to know when you do want a homeschooler, if you are homeschooling, is that it is a good thing to surround your children around other people outside of that homeschool connection right there. You can enlist them in sports. You can take them to the library and do library programs. If you go to church, you have things like Vacation Bible School. You have Bible study classes. If you're unable to do that, like if you're in a place or a space where that's not possible, like the pandemic, for example, a lot of people weren't able to take their children outdoors and have them socialize with other children because the pandemic had everybody on the inside of the house. But you have ways to still make it happen and still get it done. Don't stress about it. Oh, well, people think my child is socially awkward because they do this or that. Let people think what they think. I've seen people talk about kids who did go to school. So it's just, if people want to talk about you, they're going to talk about you, but I wouldn't stress over it. At the end of the day, like I said, just make sure you are including your children in as much extracurricular activities as possible. You don't have to go crazy with it. Just do it and make sure it's something that they enjoy. Make sure it's something that's fun. It can be whatever you choose it to be, but don't stress too much about socialization, because like I said, half the people that scream about socialization, you would look at them and think they were raised in caves the way they act. But let's move on to the cons. One of the cons to homeschooling is the anxiety. And as they said, this speaks to parents specifically. If you've never done this before, if you're from an area where you've never saw anyone else do it before, you can question yourself and wonder if you really have what it takes to homeschool your child. Can I really do it? Am I enough? Will they love it? Will they like it? Will they hate me? You have so many emotions, negative emotions that come with it. All in all, if you believe in God, if you believe in prayer, and if you don't, I encourage you to do it. I encourage you to have that talk with Jesus. I encourage you to take that moment to really pray and ask God what you should do. Should I homeschool my child, or should I just let them stay in school? Because everybody doesn't have that ability to say, I want to homeschool my kid. Even if you do, you have to consider a lot of things, because if you don't have the time to dedicate toward really making sure you can take your child or children's education in your hands, then you should probably leave them in the care of a public or private school or charter school or something like that. Because if you can't do it, there's no need for your child to suffer behind it. Really pray and make sure that this is something that you should do. Don't make decisions based off of emotions, but base them off of facts, off of truth. Base them off of what you know you can do. And from there, build your reason, build your why. And that's one of the other things that I would say as well that you need to know. Why am I doing this? Ask yourself this. Why am I doing it? And not from a negative space, but again, just considering all of the things that go into homeschooling a child. Another con that they mentioned is adjustment, the adjustment period. And I touched on this a minute ago with the anxiety portion. You have to figure out how it's going to work. It sounds good here, but out here in the real world, implementing it is going to take a little bit more time, especially like they mentioned when you're talking about picking out the right curriculum, knowing what your child's needs are, their learning style, picking out decorations for the classroom. All of that is a process. This is what teachers do every day. Now that you are standing in their shoes, you're feeling a lot of the weight of what they feel when they are planning and prepping for every school year, as well as every day that they walk into the classroom. There's so much more to it than standing in front of a whiteboard with your stick pointing and saying A, B, C, D. So this is a process and a period that you really have to make sure you consider all things. You weigh the cost of it all, and you really sit down and investigate and learn and research. YouTube is a great source because you're able to see parents and how they do it. You don't do what they do, but you learn how to modify it and put it into your household, because every household is not the same. Every child is not the same. What you see this mom doing with her kids probably ain't gonna work for your kids, but you can learn how to modify it and tweak it. The formula is the formula. Learning how to modify and tweak it to your needs is something that you have to learn in that process, and don't try to rush it. Just let it happen naturally. Don't try to force anything. Start out with baby steps and then build up from there. Start making small adjustments here and there. And then maybe within a year or 2 or 3 or 4, you finally grown to a place where you have a full-fledged classroom and you're comfortable and the child is comfortable. Especially, as I said before, if you are working with a child who is coming out of the classroom. If you're not working with a child that's not coming from the classroom, you might have it a little bit easier. But when you're dealing with a child that's coming from the classroom, it's going to take a lot of unlearning for them to get out of that structured mindset into the structure that you're building there in your home. You're going to have a lot of grace for that child and grace for yourself because this is new to you. You haven't been teaching anybody's children before, but you're teaching them now. So it makes a difference. And even if you are a former teacher and you're not homeschooling your kids, this is different from dealing with somebody else's kids. Now you're dealing with your kids. You just have a whole laundry list of things that you have to consider. You have a lot of things that you have to think about, a lot of adjustments that need to be made. That is why it's important to not fall headfirst into the homeschooling pool, but take a little minute. Like right now it's July. So you have a little minute to still consider and think about some things before you do it. Cause if you just rush into it without any thoughts, without any processes, it's going to be a lot on you and it's going to be a lot on that child. Do it as much as you can. I know emergencies happen, things happen. So we can't always take our time and we can't always start out small. Things happen. But as long as you make it an effort to at least try to do it that way, then I think you'll be okay. I really do. I think you will. One of the other cons is lifestyle changes. This goes with what I said a minute ago about the adjustment process period. The lifestyle change can be big, especially if you are dealing with a child who has come from the school system. It's going to be different at home. It's going to take a lot to really adjust to. I really won't labor over this one too much, but just take your time and give yourself grace and give your child grace specifically. Cost. This is the last con. Now you're not depending on the school's budget to purchase the books and things like that. This is something that you're doing. School curriculum is not cheap. School curriculum has a cost to it. Nothing is going to be for free, which is why it all goes back to that processing period where you are counting the cost, not just for your time and your sanity, but also the cost money-wise that it's going to be to buy the curriculum for your child, buying those school books, buying notebooks and ink pens and paper. And right about now is a good time to really start buying those things because like at Walmart and Target and Staples, Dollar Tree even, they have a lot of these back to school items on sale. But looking at the list, and I know that's what my mama would do a lot. She would look at the list of what the teachers would need and she would buy us notebooks, paper and folders based off of the things that they would list. Even if you know a teacher, hey girl, what are you getting? Or hey man, what are you doing for your students? And you can adopt that into your classroom. Again, it's the formula, but you can modify it for what you and your children need because you want them to see what they're learning. So getting a multiplication poster or some readers or leaders posters and things that will make them have a school environment right there at home. Those things cost. But then you also have some talented parents, which I know some of you are, if not most of you. You're great at drawing and creating different things and you can get on Pinterest and look for ideas or Etsy and bring these imaginations to life. Giving your image or your vision to someone else and letting them copy it or print it for you will definitely build your relationship with that child because they're seeing like, okay, my mom is really into this or my daddy is really into this. Like these are things that they're making for me so that when I walk into my classroom every day, I feel inspired to learn. I feel like as you sit down and as you do with your bills and anything else, you estimate about how much money you're going to have to spend. When you actually get down to buying online or whether you're in the store, you'll know exactly what you're looking for. You can also hit up the library. There's some things that you can check out, some books that you can check out for like additional school resources. Go to your local public library and pull these things. And if you can't do that, you have the online resource system that has so many different ways to find information and different printouts and things that you can use for your students, multiplication printouts, division printouts. You have several former teachers as well as current teachers who are creating curriculum packets that they sell for you to be able to use in your classroom as a homeschooling parent. So you have so many different ways of doing it that I wouldn't let the cost scare me because where there's a will, there's always going to be a way. So I hope that y'all enjoyed listening to these pros and cons. As I said earlier, I am a homeschooler K through 12. So I was the child that I never went to school. I was in the classroom at home up until I graduated and went to college. And I am proof that homeschooling is fun. As I said, no parent homeschools the same exact way. So what you hear or see from me or other homeschoolers, it might not be the case for somebody else, but does that mean that homeschooling is bad? No. It means that it's good and that you're trying to do something that is in the benefit of your child, especially because you have so many kids these days who are being bullied, who are being cyberbullied, who are experiencing a lot of things health-wise. They can't sit in the classroom because they're sickly. It's so many different reasons why parents choose to homeschool, which is why I don't get the judgment that comes from it. Different people do different things for their own personal reasons, and they don't always have to explain why they do it. Yes, there are those cautions and those concerns as to why some parents want to pull their kids out because those kids could really be in abusive situations. So I understand that completely. Is that the case for everyone? No, it is not. There are just some parents out there who really do want to educate their child for their own reason, and they have the right to do that. So if you are that parent, if you are that person, if you are that homeschool kid, I want you to know that you are gonna be okay. It can be scary, it can be uneasy, because people are gonna have their misconceptions, they're gonna have their feelings about it. You had people that didn't think me and my siblings would amount to much of anything, because they just knew we weren't going anywhere but down. However, as I said before, my sister, one of my older sisters, is about to be a PhD degree certified doctor in education. Another sister of mine's getting her bachelor's degree. Baby sister has her associate's degree. I have my bachelor's and my master's degree. So where did these things go? What happened to what everybody else said? Because that wasn't what God said about us. God said that we were going to be successful. And it wasn't easy. It came with its hurdles. It came with its pitfalls. It came with the pit stops. But we kept going and we did it. And I'm so thankful that my parents didn't give up on us and that they kept going. And Matt, look, hats off to them because they did it. They did the work, especially my mom. I mean, day in and day out. She put that time in. She put that work in. My daddy, when he would get out of work, one of his favorite, he's so good at math. Like so good at math. And I remember in 3rd grade, summer came around and my daddy gave me my multiplication card. He told me, he said, listen, it won't be no summer break if you don't know these. If you don't know 1 through 12 of your multiplication tables, it's not going to be good. So I learned my multiplication tables. He taught them and then I learned them. And to this day, you can wake me up out of my sleep and I can tell you what 3 times 8 is because it's definitely 24. My daddy did that. And I'm always proud to say that he did that. And I'm so happy about homeschooling. So congratulations to you. And I hope that you do well. I hope that you found this video inspiring. I love y'all so much and I hope that y'all have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all later. All right? Bye.